This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
We have an annual conference that we hold every year for the girls. And at this conference, we invite female leaders in the country that hold high positions and those that have good professions. So it's diverse. We have sometimes lawyers, doctors.
You had a pop star come. I read that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's different adults.
Welcome to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories and quirky humour, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast. We are sitting down with some very special guests today, Kathy Headley and Josephine Daka, both from Mothers Without Borders. Kathy has been on our program before. Is that right?
That's correct.
So many of you may recognize her and the wonderful work she's doing with Mothers Without Borders. But for those listeners that maybe didn't hear that episode, can you kind of give us a high level of the program, the organization, and what you guys are all about?
Sure. I am the founder of Mothers Without Borders. I started it in about 1989, so it's 34 years ago or so. And with mainly the intention of providing services and support to vulnerable children and women in different parts of the world. And so we've worked on 3 or 4 or 5 continents and in a multitude of countries over the years since that time in trying to offer assistance to those that are vulnerable. And in 1999, I was invited to come to Zambia. And because of the high incidence of HIV and AIDS, there's a lot of orphans being created and a lot of vulnerable children, a lot of vulnerable women. And so it was a really great fit for some of the services that we offer and some of the community mobilization programs that we provide. And so I went there and felt like I was at home, and we made it our regional headquarters there in Zambia. So we do things to try to support children who are either orphaned or vulnerable for a number of reasons. And Josephine started working with me just a few years after I got to Zambia, and she has taken over all of the responsibilities for the program, which serves tens of thousands of people now in Zambia. And we've worked in a few other countries in the region, in Zimbabwe and Kenya and Uganda and Congo. And so Josephine is the one now who's managing all those programs to rescue and nurture and protect children, educate them, to empower girls and women, to strengthen communities and their ability to support the vulnerable people in their communities. It's kind of a 20,000
an excellent high level. That was really good. So Josephine, tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you ended up working with Mothers Without Borders.
Okay, thank you so much. My background, I'm married. I have 2 kids and I have a granddaughter. Professionally, I'm a social worker. I've gone up to master's degree level. I started working with Kathy 20 years ago. Yeah. I met her through someone. And I think from the first time that we met, she kind of felt a connection to me. So she started by inviting me to the organization. It was pretty small. That's when she was just starting it. So she invited me to go and do a training there. I did a bit of training on several days, and before I knew it, she called me in and said, I want to interview you for a job. I wasn't sure whether I wanted to take that job because I was coming from another background of probably the hotel industry. And then she said, no, come try it out. And
she convinced you.
I I wouldn't say she convinced me. She didn't have very much money to pay me. And as you know, in my country, it's like you need to work to be able to sustain yourselves. So she offered me very little money and I wasn't sure. But at that moment, I didn't have anything to do. So I told her, I said, okay, I'm going to work for you for just a few months. Mm-hmm. I'll see how it goes. Then I'll probably find somewhere else to go. So she said yes. Then when I started working, I just found myself just loving what I was doing. Mm. And the 3 months came. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about the money. And Kathy, I think, also forgot. I don't know. She would say for herself, maybe she pretended. Then it was years and years and years. And then I think eventually after about working with her for 6 years, she just, asked, did I ever raise your pay? Then I was like, mm-mm. So she was like, immediately, can we raise your pay? So from that time, I've had no regrets. I've just loved the work that I'm doing with Kathy and just being a part of serving the people in my country that are less advantaged than myself. I think that's my motivation enough because I'm right there in my country. And then when I look at Kathy, where she's coming from, the times that I've been able to come here, I look at her to say, okay, if she's sacrificing all this to come to my country, I mean, how about me and my people here in the country? What's our role? How do we support or how do we be a part of this? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So a couple questions. How old are your kids?
32 and 29.
Okay. Oh, and now you're a grandma.
I'm a grandma.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
15-year-old girl.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I love that both of your hoodies. Can you just kind of turn to the cameras? Yes. I want to make sure everyone can see these. It says Love Works. And something that I saw over and over again on your website was the importance of doing all of this with love. Can you speak a little bit about that? I can imagine that this can be frustrating work. This is challenging work. How do you keep that goal of loving in the mix when you're facing so many challenges?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So Love Works is actually something that I came to discover over the course of 30 years. As I really looked at the vast amount of needs that exist on the planet, it sometimes you feel very small. Mm-hmm. It's really common to feel really small. Like, oh my gosh, how can I possibly, we work we concentrate very heavily at the after effects of HIV and AIDS. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the people that we work with have been affected by HIV and AIDS and their children, their families, their economy, just every level of, and it's not just in Zambia, it's in many parts of the world. And so it does make you feel really small. And as I began to pay attention to what was actually making a difference and what was really creating significant kind of exponential levels of change, it was the times when I really opened myself up to just really love and pulled my power back out of things like frustration and hopelessness and helplessness, which is a real easy place to go when you see the conditions in the world. Mm-hmm. And just really committed to compassion and love and generosity and beauty and creativity and peace and clarity and wisdom and these qualities, which are love-based energies and understanding of that. And I could see that that's really where the momentum took place. That's where real change happened in people's lives. And I learned it a lot from local people, to be truthful. I would watch them and say, how do you remain hopeful? Mm-hmm. How do you get out of bed in the morning, knowing what it's like in your country? And that I'm not trying to be depressing, but the reality is probably in Josephine's lifetime, you're not going to see global changes. Yeah. And that's just the reality. And it doesn't mean we stop being optimistic. I mean, we work hard. We work hard every day. We give it our all. But we know the truth of it, which is there's just massive suffering in the world. And that happens here in our country too. There are a lot of people suffering in silence in our country that you don't really know why they're suffering so much. And that's why we call it like the mental health crisis in the United States. That's what we call it. Mm-hmm. But it's this level of suffering because we aren't seeing each other. We aren't hearing each other. We aren't sitting knee to knee and saying, hey, I care about you. Mm-hmm. I care about how you're feeling today. So I actually wound up creating a curriculum and kind of a mental wellness program around this belief that love works, and it's the only thing that ever does. Mm-hmm. And then I lead personal growth teams over to Zambia. We take people over for 10 days and let them work with the people over there and interact. But we do a lot around this curriculum. I've written a curriculum around this love works and how to change your life and how to change the world by changing yourself from the inside out. And Josephine went through the program early on. I think that's one of the things that sold her on Mothers Without Borders. She's been offered jobs by many NGOs who've agreed to and offered to pay her a lot more money. But the basis of our program, which is Love Works, she went through the training close to 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it started to change how you saw things. And we've just watched many thousands of people get in touch with who they authentically are and be able to live more meaningful lives as a result.
Well, one of the places that you're putting this into practice is in your primary school. So please talk to us a little bit about the school, what goes on there, and some of the wonderful things happening.
Why don't you do that, Joe? Why don't you talk about the school?
All right. Okay, so our primary school currently has about 840 plus, maybe, students. It runs from grade 1 to 7. And we have 3 classes of each of those grades. Our school is very unique. We run a whole day program. So like the kids come in at 8 and they finish at 4 p.m. Mm-hmm. They come to an environment that is safe. I think that's what I should refer it to. Because where they're coming from, it's full of all sorts of things. It's hunger there, it's abuse, it's hard work. Like the kids are gotten to go into doing work so that they can be able to bring back food at the home. So the longer the time they stay in our school, the more we keep them away from those bad things that happen in the community. On top of that, we have a feeding program where we feed these children with a meal. And we found that most of the times, the meal that we feed them at the school is about the only meal that they have per day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then our teachers, because of this love works, there's a lot of energy that goes towards love, meaning that the approach that we take to an individual child is very, I think, holistic. That's the word I should use. So we are not looking at only offering education for that child. We are looking at how is their social, emotional, and even physical well-being. So all those things are taken care of. And then Mothers Without Borders has programs in all those areas where if a teacher notices that this child is unwell or they have an emotional problem, they make referral to the department that can best take care of that. Yeah, so... And also we try to keep our classes really small so that it's easy for the teacher to have personal attention to each of the students. Yeah, so...
And how does that compare like to a government school? How many kids are usually in a government class?
It's a lot.
Like 60 to 70.
Yeah. For one teacher
for
in
one
one
teacher,
room.
60 to 70 kids sitting on the floor, no books, no pencils, nothing. We cap our classes between 25 and 30.
Yeah.
And our school is free.
Yeah. So the government school also does streams where students just come for 3 hours blocks.
Yeah.
Just so they can run through a lot of them. So you find that the ones that come at 8, at 11, they are gone. And then others will come in at 12 and they go at 14. Then others come in at 14 and go at 17. So they're very short time of learning. So meaning that when they take exams, the pass rate is very poor, but our pass rate is always 100%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I do want to read a stat that I saw on your website that kind of puts in perspective your work and what you're doing. It says in Zambia, 1 in every 15 people is an orphan child.
Yes.
That is staggering.
It is.
Not 1 in every 15 children.
No.
1 in every 15 people is an orphan child. So the work you're doing with your school is literally life-saving.
Yeah.
You're giving these children a safe place to be. They're getting educated. They're being fed. And most importantly, they're being loved. And holistically, I love that you said that. This is a zoomed out approach. You're not just educating them. You're giving them a safe space. What are some of the effects you've seen from the school and how these kids are engaging with life?
Okay, so the kids that come to our school, I should say, really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like,
is there a prerequisite to get in? Do they have to qualify somehow to get in, or how do you choose?
You just have to be. We take the most vulnerable in the community, and then once a child is in our school, if they have siblings, we give them priority. The reality is, we have 800 plus students. We started out with 26, sort of grew, and the reality is, there's thousands of kids in the area that could use our services.
Yeah.
So we try to encourage other communities to set up community schools, at least as a way station.
Yeah.
At least as a place that those kids can go and be safe and be cared for and use the same principles.
Mm-hmm.
So I apologize, I interrupted, but I just wanted people to understand how it works. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying that our kids stand out. In the community, it's common to just look at a child the way they are looking. So you find that they learn all the values, they learn values of respect, of love, themselves, of sharing, of personal hygiene, and all those things. So you find that they are very different with the kids that go to other schools.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, ZuLoo is very proud to be sponsoring helping to bring some toilets into the school. Can you talk to us a little bit about that partnership and what's going on?
Yes, it's very important. A lot of people don't like to talk about toilets. This is what we love about you guys.
This is
you
all
are happy to talk about
yes,
toilets.
Absolutely, all day long.
And toilets are so important. I mean, I would just encourage your listeners, go a day where you can't find a toilet.
Yeah.
Try to go an entire day. Try to go 2 days.
It's almost incomprehensible to us who've grown up with it always available.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so at our school, the school just exploded. I mean, with just the number of students, and we kept building school blocks, and we'd put in pit latrines, But as the school grew, we weren't able to keep up with the need for the hygiene, which is the toilets. And so currently we have the the student to toilet ratio is 1 toilet per 144 students. So it's not great. I mean, picture the line, close your eyes, picture the line. We're talking what?
And this is one for both males and females. This is not, each gender gets their own. So that line is long.
That line can be long. So, and that includes the teachers. Our teachers are so wonderful because they use the same toilets as the kids because it's what's available. So we have plans. We created a plan to build 16 new 2 blocks, a boys block and a girls block of toilets, 6, and then 4 for the teachers. The teachers are thrilled to finally, after 7 years, to get their own set of toilets.
Yeah. I share a bathroom with my 2 little girls. I know how excited they are.
And if you share it with boys, you really know the pain.
Yeah.
You know the pain. Yeah. So we're really excited because that's going to take the ratio down to 1 toilet for 35 students instead of 144.
Yeah, big
so
difference.
It's big difference. And so we're very excited. We're very grateful.
Amazing. And so are we.
So thank you.
Something else I was touched very deeply by this program that I saw highlighted on your webpage was the Be That Girl program. I read a lot of quotes on there that almost brought me to tears. It was really powerful. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, go ahead, Josephine.
Okay. So there's a girls empowerment program, which we're calling the Be That Girl, where we enroll girls ages 10 to about 24. And when they're 10, they are usually in primary school. And then the ones going all the way to 24 are in college. So it's primary, secondary, and college girls. So these girls, we give them an opportunity to have a mentor. An adult who
a mentor?
Who can be a role model in their life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's a lot of obstacles that girls face as they are growing through teenage age all the way to college level because of various things. Poverty that leads them to men taking advantage of them, issues of a girl's places in the home and not in school. So we're trying to bring all these out in a woman so that we can have women, at least in a generation, that can speak out, that can be able to compare with the men in positions of high standing in society and even take up some of the jobs that were initially thought to be men. So we provide for them school fees, uniforms. The ones in college, we provide like access to internet and the computer where they can do the research so that they can improve their grades at performance in school. We have an annual conference that we hold every year for the girls. And at this conference, we invite female leaders in the country that hold high positions and those that have good professions. So it's diverse. We have sometimes lawyers, doctors.
You had a pop star come. I read that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's different adults that we can bring. So they come to inspire the girls. They speak to them. And it's just an all-girls thing where the feeling is just good for them to look at someone to say, oh, she did this. And these are usually women that have had a background similar to theirs. And they can tell a story to say, I went through this and this is what I am. And the girls can look at that person. And then that's more motivation for them to say, oh, if she did it, I can do it. Yeah.
So they can identify with someone from their same background. There was one quote that I really wanted to read because it hit me really hard. From a girl in the program. She said, life was a very big challenge for me, and it was only my mother to provide for the whole family's basic needs. My sisters resorted to prostitution just to help us with the basic necessities. I had no hope that one day I was even going to go to college. This is what's facing them without a resource like the primary school or the Be That Girl program. You've mentioned you work with the vulnerable, but specifically there are challenges that girls and young women face that are pretty devastating. So that was really, really touching to read. What does it mean to you when a girl graduates from that program?
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, going back a little bit, a step, a number of years ago, Josephine was contacted about going into an area where there was a high number of very young girls being put into marriage, early marriage. And I'm talking about 11, 12-year-old girls being sold off to older men into marriage. And so the government had reached out to Josephine as a social worker and said, can you and Mothers Without Borders create an intervention? We have to stop this. And so we went out to the village out in the east, and Josephine had identified 5 girls, and we had to sit down with their families and say, what they or people raising them and saying, we need your support. What would it take for you to let this girl stay in school and do not sell her into marriage?
Because the families feel forced to make that decision, right?
Yeah. There's no options for the girls. They don't have any money for their school fees. And it's a way to get money into the family, and it's a way to get the girl going in her life. It's just, we don't look at an 11-year-old and say, marriage is the best option for you.
Right.
So Josephine began to create some initiatives and some programs, and we got the support of some of the local teachers, and that program grew from 5 girls that we started with. And of those 5 girls, 4 made it out. Yes. Made it all the way out and got to their career point, which was powerful. The next year we had 15 girls. Now it's at 460 or 470 girls are in this program. So to see a girl graduate, to see a young girl, the light in her eyes when she knows I am not at risk of being sold to that old man over there. Like, I have an opportunity to have a dream. It's very powerful.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I have a 9-year-old. I can't possibly fathom what that would be like for her.
Yeah. So how do you feel, Josie, when you are there and you're watching these girls graduate and finish and have their dreams?
It's a dream come true. I think that's the word I can use. There's so much light on them, There's so much light, and they're equipped with everything, to go and face society, because now they're going to face society. So they're equipped with everything that they need. You know, the people that have not been on the Be That Girl program, like the girls, they'll graduate from college. They might go look for a job somewhere, and then maybe because there's not enough jobs in the country. So you find that someone goes and says, I want a job at some place. And then this man, because he's the boss, he wants to take advantage of her and say, oh, no, I'll give you a job if you do this. Yeah. But then with the Be That Girl girls, because I've seen it even now, like they'll phone me and say, Auntie Jo, I'm not going to that hotel again to get a job as a receptionist. I said, why? But they gave you a job and then you don't want to. I said, I'm not taking it because this man said this. Yeah. So to me, that's like, okay, that's the empowerment we are looking for.
They know they have alternatives. Yes, they don't have to take anything that comes their way.
And they know they can say no. Yeah. They know they can, in their culture, it's not acceptable for them to say no to a man, any man.
Yeah.
And they're learning, you can say no. It's your body. It's your life. You can say no. Things that we take for granted. Mm-hmm. And now they are starting to learn it, and they're starting to teach their friends. And so it's even spreading outside the program.
Mm-hmm. I know we're running short on time. I could ask you questions forever because I feel like this is such important work. But I do want to ask a little bit about the mentor-student relationship and kind of what goes on there and who those mentors are. And after they graduate, does that relationship continue?
Yes. Okay, so these mentors, they're picked, we identify them from the community where the girls are. So we are serving different communities. We have 23 mentors, and these 23 are coming from 23 different areas. So each mentor gets to mentor maximum 20 girls, and that mentor creates a personal relationship with each of the girls because they're all different. They're individuals on their own, different likes, different talents, and everything. So that relationship is created between mentor. And then we have a work plan for a year, like as in objectives for every month that mentor needs to teach to the girls. So they hold group discussions where all the 20 girls get together and the mentor is there, and then they do a group discussion. They're free to talk to their mentor and things like that. Then there's also an individual visit that the mentor makes in the respective home, and that mentor creates a relationship with the whole family where that girl lives. Yeah, so it's kind of fun to see just how those relationships grow. Like the mentee will just call the mentor when anything happens. Mm-hmm. She's free to talk to her, and these mentors are available to the girls anytime. The girls have access to go to the mentors' houses whenever they feel there is something that they need to communicate to them. And for those that graduate from the program, we've created an alumni for them. So there's a group also where they continue to support each other. And then for us, we are looking for opportunities where we can post on the group to say, there's an opening this side and things like that. And then we've also tried to source some funds to help the girls that are not yet going into, like, who haven't found a job. So they can also be entrepreneurs in a way and stuff like that. Just so we keep them busy, but we are always engaging them. So that relationship doesn't just die like that.
Yeah. I imagine that would be almost impossible when you forge those strong bonds. Yeah. And I mean, love works. That has to be a very loving relationship. Okay, again, I wish that we could go on all day because I think this is amazing. But if any of our listeners want to get involved with Mothers Without Borders, there are several ways that they can do so. Let us know what our listeners can do if they want to get involved.
Yeah, there are a lot of ways people can get involved at whatever works in their, individual lives. You can visit the website, motherswithoutborders.org, and learn more about our programs, learn how to get engaged, learn how to be involved. We hold a golf tournament. We have a gala if you want to come together in our community. We have groups that go with us to Zambia to go and visit all the programs that Josephine so beautifully runs and operates. And
I mean, that sounds like an incredible trip. I mean, what are the requirements to get on that airplane?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a really life-changing experience because you really get in to see things that you would otherwise not have access to. Mm-hmm. And so it's really an amazing experience. You fill out an application. We don't require any specific career or talent, just specific talents. It's like if you come with an open heart, you're welcome. People come with their families. They come. We've had, I think the youngest we've had come is probably 5.
Oh,
we have family teams that we send over that are a little bit shorter and geared more towards children. And then we have corporate teams. If your company wants to send a group over for 4 or 5 days and then go on safari or something, we do that.
Do you ever need a photographer? Because I can volunteer.
It's just, it's just a fabulous, amazing experience. And most people, we invite them to reach out into their community and raise the money to go rather than just write a check. It's like invite as many people to be a part of this process with you. And then that gets more people, opening their hearts to these kids, to these girls, and to the boys that we serve, the young men that we have opportunity to work with, the grandmothers. So it's a really powerful experience. It's about 10 days long. And so they can find that on the website. I think it's called Come to Africa. We have a great video on YouTube and on the website, the Mothers Without Borders page on YouTube. You can go see some of the videos and get excited.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both, Kathy and Josephine, for joining us today as a human and a mother. I so appreciate the work that you're doing, and I'm going to check that out. I think my girls and I need to come over and see what's going on and see how we can get involved. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. This has been another amazing episode that I feel privileged to have been a part of, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Pōōdcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@ZuLoo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Pōōdcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.